Okay. You ready? Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you guys my budget request for the 2025 year. I'm going to start with just a short brag, and that is, I think over the last few years, we've been able to accomplish a lot without any additional personnel expenses, such as we now have library service, although not a branch, on the 280 corridor. And that's been very staff intensive. We have programming and book pickup and remote book drops throughout the entire city. Most recently, this last year, we added passport service to the library. So there is now a second location in Hoover besides the post office that you can come and get a passport to. And that was very staff intensive. And next year, actually last week, we employed our bookmobile, and we did that too without any new funds for personnel. We did that because you guys trusted me to make some changes to our personnel that didn't cost any more money, but that was very strategic and often complex. But that's allowed us to do more with less. Part of that process was that we did last year complete a staff and space study. And all of it was aimed to make the library more efficient so we can continue to do more with our current personnel levels. And the other part of that was to evaluate our building and figure out what we need to do to make it better for the public. So to that end, almost all of the requests that you're going to see in my list have to do with making changes to the building that would support a new organizational chart that we are employing this year, and would make improvements to our facility for the good of the public, and then make improvements to our facility that are just due to it being an aging building, like many of the other departments have spoke about. So I'm just going to go through each of those things on my list as the other department heads have and tell you what they are and what they mean. The first two items in the operating budget are for cleaning and routine maintenance. I think we all know that in 2021, I think it was, that we kind of redid the way that we did buildings, and what the library used to manage ourselves was the cleaning, like professional cleaning services like windows and bathrooms and carpet and that sort of stuff, and then the small repairs. We actually did a lot more building stuff, but it was all taken, all the money that we had that we managed was taken to building. And Charles has done a fabulous job in helping us with as much as he can, but he is one person. And I think that if we could just have some of that money back, when I think I asked for this last year too, so I'm asking again, to be able to do the professional cleaning and the small repairs that his staff can't do. If it's painting, I'm calling Charles, because he has the best staff in the world, and they're gonna paint and make everything look great. But if it's having just a small repair like tile in our bathroom, I think I left that in the packet, or something like that. That is something that we're gonna have to employ somebody outside to do. It would take a load off of him, and it would allow us to have some control over our building, especially when it comes to routine cleaning. We are a building that has 400,000 visitors a year. It does get dirty, and we had not, with the new system, been able to have carpet cleaned but like once in 3 years or maybe twice. We had not been able to have our bathrooms professionally detailed in 3 years, and they felt that strain. Building services did not have any money to do that, so we transferred money from children's programming in order to clean our bathrooms this year. So I'm just asking that if you would please consider allowing us some of that money back in order to take care of those things that we can easily, and that way we can count on Charles to do the things that he is so helpful for. The third thing on the list is that one of the only things that is not in line with the space buddy, but it is an increase of 4%, I think, of digital materials for to keep up with the rising costs of books. Everything is costing a lot more. I tracked this year for the first time the amount that we spent on like toilet paper and paper towels and cleaning products, and it's $40,000 a year out of our supply budget. That's a lot more than it used to be. But we have moved a lot of things around in the budget. For instance, we did, like I think Greg might have said, that he was doing less travel this year in order to put it towards some of those just basic expenses. So we did make changes to our operating budget to account for increases, and we decrease where we could, but we still do need to keep up with just the ongoing rise of expenses. And last on the list of operating needs is a suite of services that would help beef up our network security. I think that Moose is bringing this to the body for the city because, as you know, we've seen what happened in Birmingham. Last year we had a close call in the Jefferson County Library System, and it is just really imperative that we beef up our network security. It's no longer an option. We have this in the operating budget instead of the technical budget for the city because we have our own network. So just to let you know. In personnel, we are making no requests for personnel with the exception of reclassifying a position just for housekeeping. And then we are asking for just a 6% cost increase in our overtime budget to keep up with what it costs to employ a person. No vehicles, but we do have quite a few building and facilities requests. First off is the modernization of our HVAC system. This has been on the list for quite a while. It is, I'm sure Charles is going to talk more about it, but there is, I guess, some money already projected and accounted for, but it's going to cost more than that. The completion of our roof, which is $1.5 million for all three parts. We are also requesting the library theater renovation again because you guys have very generously given us money for carpet 1 year, chairs last year, but when we got into the project, we realized that when we replace those chairs, we're going to have to bring down our control booth in order to make ADA recommendations. So there is a request for an additional $172,000 in addition to what we have already budgeted for that project. And then last on this list is a request to redo our front lobby and make that more patron-friendly when you walk in. But very critically, it will take our front desk and make it and combine it with some other desks. So we will have one desk instead of several desks. Part of our space plan is to reduce our service points from 11 to 5 or 6, making our staff more efficient. Then we have the capital and one-time requests on the back. We have a handful of things that will help improve services. One is to expand that grab and go service at East 59 Cafe in Lee Ranch where you pick up books. It's gotten more popular. We need more space. So we are asking for an additional locker. Materials, management, and management desk shelving. One of the biggest recommendations of the space study was to combine different departments. We're combining our adult department into one department. It's now 3 departments. And we are going to create a department that handles all the materials, gets them all ready. And it is the first domino in our plan to combine all the departments. And to do that, we need some furniture to set it up downstairs. Private study spaces is the thing that patrons have been asking for, and we can do that with installing some pods that are pre-made without it being a big construction project. That's $49,000. We can take 2 of our little alcoves and make those meeting spaces for $44,000, and we can that way really do some good for the public, something that they've been asking for in regards to our spaces for a long time for a little bit of money. And then last is a request for $54,620. Hopefully we get a grant and that becomes $13,000, but that is a way of taking desktops off the floor and making room for the pods and the study spaces that we've been talking about. And then it also alleviates us checking out laptops all the time because it becomes self-service, and that helps our staff become more efficient, which allows us to do more cool things. And that is all of my requests.
Any questions? None.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And we have, next up is operations with 60 seconds on the clock. This is going to be fast.
Just keep that 5 minutes extra.
Okay, there you
Sure
go.
would like that.
That was ambitious.
I really
at
would like,
60 seconds.
they allocated 1 minute for me. I don't know what I could say in 1 minute.
That was 30 seconds more than you asked for.
Well, I would like first to echo what every department head here said by thank you for guys for giving us the opportunity to come here and talk about our fiscal year 25 budget request. Just to give you a little background on the city operations, the city operations include about 8 departments. One of them is the operation, which is my area of my area. Then I have fleet. Then we have public works. We have engineering. We have building inspection, building services, planning and zoning, and IT. So all of those departments under the umbrella of city operations. And you are going to hear from each department head on their fiscal year 25 budget. And you should see that in your handout. And all of these requests is gonna really reflect the absolute needed items for each department. And we appreciate you guys' consideration and support for this year as well. Before I turn it over to Charles to talk about building services, and I know my minute's up, but I'm into building services. I have added a few things into building services budget request that I would like to talk about first before I turn it over to Charles. One of them is, first, let me go back a little bit. On operations side, on my area, we have no increase in operating and no capital request. But on the building services, on the new positions, I have asked for 2 new positions to hopefully be considered for the fiscal year 2025. One of them is an assistant facility manager. Charles was hired about 3+ years ago to handle building services, and he has done an outstanding job for us. However, if you guys remember, 2 years ago, we have kind of submitted a proposal to you guys and got approved to have custodian services in-house. And that's brought in about 13 additional people under building services, 2 of which supervisors, custodian supervisors that report directly to Charles. So that gave him a long span of control, which is just too many people that directly report to him. So this year, talking to Ken, and we have kind of requesting to have an assistant to Charles to help him out with the daily responsibility and the supervision of our building services and custodian staff. So, and I hope you guys will consider that. The second position that we are asking for is a custodian supervisor. At the beginning in the proposal, we thought that 2 supervisors would be sufficient. However, when I look at the Hoover Met Complex by itself, we have about 5 custodian staff that work in there. That responsibility kind of comes under Greg, that he's over here, that supervise. We have 1 supervisor here and we have 1 supervisor at the PSC. So it's been a lot of load on Greg and Charles to run all the way to the Met just to make sure our custodian staff over there are doing what they need to be doing. So the recommendation this year, if we could consider 1 additional position as a supervisor, and it'd be working supervisor. I mean, they will have daily responsibilities, but at the same time, supervise the custodian staff that we have at the Hoover Met Complex. I have asked additional stuff for, of course, y'all familiar with the Hoover Met Complex renovation project and everything. The only thing that we did not include in that project and in the budget that we have currently for it is the milling and repaving or resurfacing the parking lot in front of the Finley Center. We got to consider the lighting and the paving, resurfacing that parking lot to match exactly what we have done in the front of the Hoover Met. So we could be consistent, especially when it comes to the lighting. The other thing that I asked under building services is, and I know Aaron touched a little bit on that, is security cameras across our parks. We have a challenge with that because we do not have a network connection at our parks to bring it back to our server room. So we have implemented a pilot program at the River Chase Trail System, and we experimenting with that, and I think it's gonna work fine. So we have added a couple $100,000 in this year budget to accommodate all of that request. Any question for me?
On the Finley Center paving that you mentioned,
Yes, ma'am.
when did we last pave the area in front of the Finley Center?
When it was built,
Which was when?
7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago?
Right, I think there's a small portion of the parking lot that was resurfaced or added when the Finley Center was built. The majority, the rest of that, 20 acres of parking field, it's been probably since the Met Complex was built, since that area was resurfaced.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
So I feel dumb. I thought we already had security cameras in the parks.
No, sir, we do not, because of our challenge with the network connections. However, I think the pilot program that we are doing right now is gonna give us the solution that we are looking for.
Okay. How many parks we have total?
18,
Wow.
or maybe more even, I can't remember. Over 30,
Wow.
so,
All right, thank you.
yes, sir. Hey, Wendy, can you give Charles a little more time? I took his time. Sorry.
Good morning, councilors. How are y'all doing? I'm here to talk to you about the budget service requests that have been made to our department and share it with you and let you kind of go over it with you. Okay, the additional fund operating funds this year, operation funds, no additional operating funds were requested. Okay, on the next one, it's going to be, I did put a request in to have 3 of our trucks, vehicles that have a lot of high mileage on it, and they spend a lot of time being repaired. They do, Dustin does a great job with them, but if we could get them upgraded, it would really help us be more efficient. The HVAC, the next item is the HVAC modernization of the library. The library, so you know this, it was, when it was first initially built, it had Johnson Control devices inside. They are no longer supported. They only support them, I think that's 1990, about 20 years is the best you get. And then you have to upgrade. But we haven't upgraded all these years, and we're at the point now where there's actually not even some parts available to make the repairs if I needed to. So we'd have to come in and do some kind of emergency standalone until we get the repairs made. But they are operating now. But at some point in time, we're going to have to spend some money to get that done. The Fire Station 7 concrete pad. These 2 items were, we had overruns where the prices actually exceeded what we had set aside for it. So when it came in, they was too high, so we just referred it back to this next year's budget and added that $30,000. Okay. The following request items are not listed in our priority, but instead are listed by request sent by each department. The capital request under $50,000. Spains Park HVAC system. Some of those air conditioning systems are so old that they're actually operating using R22. R22 is legally not used anymore. So they've taken that out. So when they go down, we have to replace them. So, okay, the Met windows parts. On the Met Stadium, the press boxes up there have these windows that you can take and pull them around to make them and pull them out. they're no longer made anymore. The parts are no longer available. Now, I can buy these parts, keep you going for several years, but if I don't have the parts repaired, then they're gonna have to tear all that out and redo it. So that's the whole purpose, is this just for the parts and repair costs, so. Fleet mini splits. We got two gentlemen that work in the fleet department. They have two small offices that don't have air conditioning in them. And they do a lot of work in there as far as research and stuff to buy these parts, and they spend a lot of time in there, and they really could use that. It's just a mini split. That's two of them, actually. One for one office and one for the other office area. That would really help them a lot, because it gets pretty warm back there. The PSC ice machines, we got some ice machines that are, they fleet uses, not fleet, but the Public Works Department uses them to keep their guys' coolers stocked with ice during the summertime, and those machines are old. And the parts, if you look at some of them, they're actually, coils are being eaten apart because they're so old and they're oxidizing, and so they really need to be replaced to keep them more, dependable. River Chase Treatment Plant, HVAC, that 20,000, it's the same thing. It's a big HVAC, it's R22. And we're getting these equipment out here. Once we get out, you're gonna be good for 15, 20 years, but those are pretty old equipment. And so we're running the problem getting them repaired. The replacement court windows, if you ever go down a court, if you notice those, they have bulletproof glass as you approach the entrances. It's got cracks all in that glass. Those things are pretty old now. They're about 20 years old, and the materials in between them are starting to separate. When they separate, they make it cloud up on it. So they really do need to be replaced if that's, possible. Let's see. Fleet has a request of $32,000 for an additional fan to be placed in there. The old method they used to use was putting those big fans on top of the roof and sucking that hot air and blowing it down on people. So they've kind of got away from that, and they put those big fans inside the area, and it keeps the air a whole lot cooler, and it really does help, and at a lot less cost what them other ones operated at. So the office floors back there, if you notice, that was in the 1990s when they built it. Some of it's the old flooring, tile, and then they want to kind of upgrade it and carry what we had done about a year ago, carry it back through there to make everything look uniformed. Capital projects over $50,000, fire station, totaling $122,900. Fire station 2, they want the bay ceiling painted and repair the irrigation system there. The problem with the irrigation, when they did the renovations, the lines wasn't carried across the irrigation part, so they're gonna have to have that cut and a pipe put underneath there in order to bring the irrigation back over to the irrigation around the station. So that's the problem we run into. So, Fire Station 4, technical rescue storage. If you notice over there at Fire Station 4, if you go around the back of the building, they want to put a lean-to on that building back here so they can put their stuff to keep it out of the weather. If you don't keep it out of the weather, it just don't last very long, and it get really looking bad. So they're just trying to find somewhere to store their materials, their equipment and stuff. First, let's see, that's it on that one. Fire station, they want to remodel the duty office as well as Station 4. If you go in that front, it's really dated. It really looks kind of old when you go into Fire Station 4, and it really does probably need to be upgraded. And it's not it's something, it's a want more than a necessary, but it would look a lot better in there for them. Fire Station 5, they want to get a patio awning. The awnings are really weathered and look bad on the back of the stations. Fire Station 8, remodel the kitchen. That kitchen at 8's got the not ceramic tile, but has a material on the top that's cracked, and it's going to need to be replaced. There's not much you can do and just do with it. Fire Station 8's shower. They got 3 of those old showers in there. They're old tile, and they was put in when they initially built. They really need to be upgraded. It looks bad. They're functional, but they're leaking in some places. We're trying to keep it together. Let's see here. It's going to be. They also requested to have their awning replaced as well on the outside awning. Fire Station 9, repair the concrete. That one I'm not really familiar with. I can't really talk about that one because I'm not on the $5,000 one. I'm not sure exactly on 9. Cause we did some repair work on the front of the building this year, but I'm not sure what this is $5,000. But I can get that back to you. Investigate them, let you know. Public Works total $70,000. They're requesting the break room to be updated. That break room has been there since they built the building, and A lot of people go in and out there, and it really does need to be updated. Front office renovations, that's the office where you go in and on the back of the station, but they just want to get it upgraded and make it look a little more presentable. Now, the police department has a total of $536,400. The Sally Port door operator, that's an operator that goes on those two garage doors downstairs. I replaced one 2 months ago. That's the oldest equipment I've probably ever seen, an operator. So we got one of them replaced. The other one also, since they've made it at the same time, is doing the same thing. There's no parts available for that operator. They're so old. So we just need to replace them. Jail padded cell, I think the jail's requesting that because that's, some of the inmates come in that kind of have mental issues and stuff, and they bring them in there and they need somewhere, to put them for safety reasons. So they're requesting that. The 75 doors on the motors, that's something that I think the people that installed those units when they first built the Hoover City Jail, is letting them know that those things need to be repaired and replaced. It's an agreement I think went through them. The pass-through cell, I have a problem with some of the inmates when they come in. They like to jump up and grab the ceiling grid and rip it down, trying to find a way to get out of there. They're already kind of disoriented, and so they'll jump up there and just rip the whole thing and pull it down. We have to go back over and fix it about at least once, sometimes twice a year. But we're trying to get something in there so that we can put more permanent that they can't tear down or damage anything. The sprinkler heads, so that's $42,000. And those sprinkler heads have the old method was they had a little keeper on the bottom of them. The inmates have learned that you can take a towel and pop it and hook it and break them off. They have nothing else to do. But so those things, that's where they're designed. But the new ones actually recess above the ceiling so they can't be vandalized. So that's the issue with that. We had one break, and I think I spent about $5,000 fixing it. Time I got through getting all the floors resurfaced and the ceilings, they broke that pipe loose. Of course, it went off, so it caused a lot of damage. But we did get it repaired. The library is theater renovations for $172,000. That's what she's talking about when you go in for the auditorium going down. The auditorium is, I think it's built in the 90s, and it's really old looking. And some people have requested to go into using the media room when you first go into it, and the ADA accessibility is not there. And they've had to turn someone down because of that, and that's not something you want to get involved in doing. But that's really, it needs to be done. Library total is, let's see, it's going to be $532,000, of course, but the front lobby desk renovation, that's what it's talking about. They want to go in and renovate that on that front when you first walk into the library, is my understanding. That's something that's going through their department. I hadn't had a lot of. Okay, on your roofs. Okay, the recreational center, this is really the big cost you're going to be looking at. The recreational center, so most of your buildings were built in 1990, early 90s. Okay, you got OPDM roof on there, and those roofs are actually almost like a swimming pool liner, and they're real thin rubber. They lay across there and they run up the walls. That stuff had a lawsuit on it, and they took it out of service. Then the company went bankrupt. So it's only good for really 20 years is what they say they give you, but 15 to 20 years ago. Those roofs were put in the 90s, so you can see they're way outside their life expectancy. The new roof that we're going to put on will give you, another 20, 25 years. But those roofs are getting in bad shape. Okay, and the reason they're broke down in sections because you got a lower section, upper section, and then you got that metal roof that runs in between them. Okay, on the library, now we replaced one section roof. If you remember, last year we spent the money going into the main access. It was pretty bad shape. The roof was leaking real bad, and it was causing your sheetrock and stuff to fall in. Had holes in the front, looked terrible. So we renovated that. Got the new roof put on, looks great. But then you got 3 more sections that need to be done. But the roof was built in separate times, so we was able to divide it. But they would like to do it all at one time, if possible.
So I guess the reason you have it divided into the sections is you could conceivably do those sections one at a time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They do that, and part of that was too, was a part of when they did the construction, they put the dividers between them so you can actually do that. So they tie them into the new roofs. So you're correct.
Helpful, thanks.
I guess that's all I got for y'all. anything you'd like to ask about or anything? Well, I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Next up is, yep, inspections.
2 whole minutes.
You're really tight on these timelines.
Good morning, council. All right, building inspections. We have no capital projects, no building facility request, no employees, and we met the operating budget to $1. We do have vehicle request, either department head vehicle or stipend increase, and we need to replace 3 inspectors' vehicles that are high mileage. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward. They didn't even start your clock, so that's good.
Huh? I'll stand here for 2 minutes.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. And Public Works, you get 10 minutes.
Yes. How's everybody today? We're gonna do the worst first. And that is going to be where my half of park maintenance ties into the Hoover Met. And that will be, I don't know if do y'all have that in your packet? It's mine and Shannon's. We're kind of commingled on that. But on the very last page, top project is the climbing apparatus at the playground. To replace that's $25,000. Outfield plywood and painting is $6,700. That's replacing the plywood on the outfield and painting it. And then a new set of bleachers, and that cost is $200,000, but we're hoping to split that cost with the school at $100,000. So the bleachers that are there are at the end of their life. So I think that's a wise investment. Then down at the bottom here, asphalt storage at the baseball fields, they want to pave that, which that will tie back into one of my other requests here in a little bit. Pave the maintenance shed area, and then padding for the multipurpose fields and baseball fields, and then baseball complex shade structures over the smaller areas of bleachers there. And I'm sorry I got ahead of myself. There's no increase in the operating. So here on Public Works, under operating requests, we do have a contractual CPI increase for Amwaste at 5%, $459,750. Public Works, my department itself, is requesting an additional $20,000 for operating cost in 6110. We've been operating on that for over 5 years, and as we all know, year over year, the inflation has caught up with us. Where we used to pay $20 for a shovel, we're now paying $70 for a shovel. So, sounds crazy, but that's reality. So that brings our total requested fiscal year budget to park maintenance. Also had no additional requests. So that's $995,000 in operating, but that brings our total operating budget to $10,582,305. And that includes Amwaste. And then here, this is where it gets down to my personnel. Well, let me back up. Overtime funding. This year, we know with Amwaste and their shortcomings, our staff had to work a lot of overtime picking up trash, picking up brush and debris. We suffered a bit of a shortfall in our overtime, so we're requesting an additional $20,000 going into 25 because there are so many unknowns. We don't know where we may be this time next year, so just try to get out ahead of it. Personnel requests. I have one for a crew leader to be upgraded to a public works supervisor. He's been with us a long time. He's operating in the same capacity as some of our other supervisors. He has a crew. He's managing some of the contracts here within the city as far as our maintenance contracts with the gateways. So I would like to see that happen if at all possible. I also have a upgrade for an administrative assistant senior, going to an administrative services specialist. That also goes from a pay grade 6 to a pay grade 8. And then my last upgrade request is for a crew worker to be upgraded to a playground and structure inspector. We have multiple playgrounds throughout the city. We have over the years had children injured. This position wouldn't just inspect playgrounds, he would inspect the different types of structures there within the parks, benches, and that sort of thing. But I think that would be a good upgrade for someone. You have to go to school to be a playground structure specialist. There's a school for it, and it's hard. We send 4 or 5 people a year, and only 2 or 3 pass it. So it's a certification that you have to get and maintain. And then my new personnel requests is for 4 equipment operators. And I want to kind of paint a picture because I don't think a lot of people in here know, they may or may not know. Public Works now encompasses park maintenance, HUF. So I have 79 employees when I'm fully staffed. Right now, I'm not fully staffed. Public Works has 21 people in it. 21 people maintain pretty much 50 square miles, over 900 miles of roadway. You know, it's a lot. So I'm asking for these 4 new operator positions to try to build a department because the city's growing, maintenance is growing, so those positions are well needed. And they could be used across all 3 divisions in our department, but those are positions that we need as well. Then down underneath that, we get into equipment, and as everybody knows, Public Works is equipment, park maintenance is equipment. It's big expenditures, lots of money. Dustin's done well with his staff to maintain our fleet, but we're requesting 2 one-ton crew cab 1-ton dump trucks to replace 2 1999 model 1-ton trucks that we have in service. We have an aged unit or an aged fleet across the board, and like I said, they've done a great job maintaining it, but at some point in time we have to start making some adjustments. We're also requesting 2 administration trucks. That's for supervisors. That's their office. That's where they spend most of their days. And then one of our big asks is for a new service truck. It's an F-250. That's for our equipment maintenance specialist. That's actually a 2004 model truck, and it has a lot of issues. Brush truck, requesting a new brush truck as well. And then the asphalt equipment paver that Aaron spoke about earlier. That is something that would be multi-use, it'd be multi-purpose. We have a lot of parks, Chase Lake, Georgetown, River Chase Greenway, they all have asphalt pads. The paving at the Meth there, not the parking lot itself, but behind the maintenance shed and up on the hill, areas like that, that would essentially pay for itself doing just those jobs right there. And on top of that, it would make our road patches much better when we have to cut out a large area of the road instead of using a skid steer or a patch truck to make those repairs. And then this other piece of equipment is a multi-purpose piece of equipment also, but it's an articulating boom lift. That's not something that just Public Works uses. Fire department uses it, park maintenance uses it, building services uses it. It's a man lift, it's a larger man lift. It can extend to higher heights to get to places like on the rec center. And then that's under Public Works. Park maintenance equipment requests a new service truck, an F-250. That's for another equipment maintenance specialist that's for park maintenance, and that's all he services is park maintenance. That's one of the requests that we have as well. And then equipment, a field mower and a reel mower. Reel mower would be for the Met, and then the field mower would be for Hoover East. Collins staff under Huff, they're requesting a F-350, that's for the grass crew, and then another crew cab F-250. And then we're also in dire need of a John Deere tractor flail mower. That cuts the right-of-ways throughout the city. I think the ones that we have now, if I'm not mistaken, our newest one's a 2007, 2008 model, so it's an aged unit as well. And then 4 Kubota front deck mowers. Those are the ones the guys are on daily. People think, well, it's a lawnmower, it should last forever. But when the guys are on them 5 or 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, pretty much from March all the way up through October, they get a lot of wear and tear. And then Charles alluded to the upgrades in the break room for the, our break room there at the PSC. That would also include some upgrades for the front office as well. It wouldn't just be solely for the break room. Any questions?
One I've got, you know, when we start talking about Sandtech and you mentioned the overtime was how much, do you have a rough estimate of how much money we have invested as a city covering that shortfall over this past year? I'm sure it's a big number.
It is, and I can't sit here and speak to it like I know, because I don't. That would be I think, Mindy or Ken or Jennifer.
I think it would be good to know as we go into this next fiscal year to have that number on hand for council to have and look at how much we spend on it. And then as we move forward and have more discussions about trash services, to keep that number for the next year and the next year and keep that information on hand.
One of the things with that on some of these positions was being prepared should we need to run our trucks in support of not just that, but also vegetation and debris. And that's part of what happened after the storm. So we also had that, not just residential trash, but with Amwaste, I will give them credit. They have made improvement in this last 2 months and it's continuing. So a lot of positives. And I think Jason would agree that that's been very helpful. Once we get out of some sidewalk work that will move us on, that'll help a lot. He's kind of caught in sidewalk maintenance world, and over a mile.
We're close to a mile that we've completed in the preserve.
So he's down to 600 and something feet. So that'll shift some resources, but definitely we can get you that number of what we spent this year, and hopefully that won't happen again. Hopefully we won't be in that. We'll just be doing additional service as needed for the citizens if we see fit, such as vegetation. Yeah, we'll continue the reports, and we're going to work that with the Cahaba Solid Waste Authority to use our model and try to find a way that everyone can agree and Waste to agree. So we'll work through that.
All right. Any other questions for Public Works?
Just a quick question on your new position requests, the 4 equipment operators. How many equipment operators do you have now, or how many positions do you have now for equipment operator, and are all of those filled?
I have one that has not posted yet. We just had one of our employees leave for more money, so his position is now vacant.
So you have one vacant position?
One vacant equipment operator position, yes.
And you would be seeking the 4 in
Yes.
addition to filling that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
ma'am.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, you have the rest of the agenda.
All right, thank you, council. And while Jason's still here, one of the things that Jason and Blake's going to cover some of our budget as well here in a few minutes, and you should see it in your handouts. It'll show some upgrades for a lot of the hourly workers on there. And what we talked about is, as Jason mentioned, he just lost an equipment operator because they were offered $2 more. And we're seeing that across the board. So we threw it out in our budget meetings with the administration and said, hey, look, instead of us, we need to be competitive with the outside market. Can we look at a way for our hourly workers to supplement them? The COLAs are great. You know, don't misunderstand that at all. They're very, but if we give a 1.5% COLA to somebody who makes $10 an hour, that makes no difference to them. So they're going to leave us in a heartbeat for $2 more an hour. So you'll see that in Jason's budget and in what Blake will present as well. That's what that's about. We just wanted to bring that up front. For y'all to think about, I don't know what the answer to that is. You know, is it another salary study that was done years ago? But problem with that is, you know, typically the last couple ones that I've been involved with took a couple years to complete. So that's not any immediate relief for that. So I apologize for getting off on that. I just wanted to try to explain that to y'all if y'all see that in those handouts. I know y'all saved the best for last, so we appreciate that. We are one of the smaller departments with probably the largest budget request, and have a very good staff, as you all know that. So I'm going to cover the sewer request. Jason Welch manages that system for us, and I know most people think that's all Jason does, but it's not. He's just an overachiever in our department. He works long hours. He's really over our inspections, and he does a lot of other stuff besides sewer, but he does a great job managing that, and he did a great job putting this budget together today. I would have had him here, but he had an obligation today he couldn't get out of, so he couldn't come in and do this. So I will be brief and go through this. It is a large amount. It's almost $10 million in operating and project requests just for the sewer systems themselves. In the operating budget, we requested an additional $683,000 increase over last year. This is to cover increases for chemicals for the plants, dumping fees, mobile data associated with the monitoring systems they have at the pump stations and the plants, review fees, and the CPI increase for the operations and maintenance contract. That will bring our total just operating budget for both plants to a little over $3.3 million. And that is a 25% increase over last year. As Chief Bentley spoke earlier about the fire trucks, seeing the increase in the amount of, we're seeing the same thing across the board with everything that we're dealing with. No personnel requests for sewer, vehicles, or technology. As Mr. Yates talked about, there was a $20,000 request to repair the existing building air conditioning on one of the control rooms at River Chase wastewater treatment plant. For a capital request, these are immediate requests or priority requests that Mr. Welch has identified. He's requesting $1.5 million for the purchase of new pumps at various pump stations. There's 43 pump stations, I'm sure you are aware, that the city maintains. Plant equipment, replacing generators at both plants, and purchasing a dry prime pump units as required for these upgrades as part of that $1.5 million. He's also requesting $850,000 for Building 104 pump station improvements. That's to replace pump station over in Inverness. It's adjacent to Inverness Center Drive. It's a pump station that would service the proposed BJ's development on Inverness Center Drive and Valledale Road. That is needed to address the capacity needs of that new development. It's requesting $850,000 for Valledale Road pump repair and pipe lining project. A few months ago, we had a collapse of that pipe, so it's 23 feet deep, and we're going to have to dig up Valledale Road to replace that. So that is more of an emergency project, but we have it functioning now where we're not getting fined by EDM or anyone else. He's requesting $700,000 to replumb the wet well for River Chase #1 pump station. This is the first pump station leading to the River Chase treatment plant. It's very important. We'll be replacing the existing corroding gravity force main piping, lining the wet well, and adding new ventilation pipes for the valve pit, and replacing 3 100 horsepower pumps at this pump station. He's requesting $1 million for the sanitary line replacement project at River Chase #6 pump station. This is relocating an existing manhole line exposed along the Carver River. This area was damaged really during the October 6th storm several years back, and it continues to give us problems. We haven't lost that manhole yet. I don't know if any of y'all have had the opportunity to see that, but it is basically hanging in the air. So that needs to be addressed as well this year. I got 4 minutes, so I'm trying to hurry. Requesting $1 million for, there is a Jefferson County widening project on Caldwell Mill Road there at the Cobble River Bridge. We're responsible for design work and relocating our utilities in that area. So that $1 million is to help fund the design work and the relocation of our sewer system on Caldwell Mill Road in the vicinity of that project. That may be refundable. We don't know that yet, but we definitely got to get the ball rolling on that to get that relocated. Requesting $800,000 for the River Chase wastewater treatment plant headworks and bar screen replacement. It's 16 years old and it's basically at the end of its useful life. So basically, that's the same with a lot of the equipment associated with the sewer plants and the pump stations. And lastly, he's requesting $250,000 for an inflow and infiltration study for the River Chase Basin. And that would be looking at the whole River Chase system to see where our manholes and pipes are failing. And that's all we have for the sewer system. Mr. Miller's going to come up, and I was out under the weather earlier this week, so he did a great job of summarizing this stuff and getting it ready for today. So I was going to let him have the glory in presenting that to you. A lot of the stuff you'll see are maintenance-related items, resurfacing, traffic signals, stormwater, sidewalks, and he'll go over those, and I'm sure he'll do a great job.
Thanks for your confidence, Chris. I don't know how much glory it is, but thank you. I do appreciate the opportunity, like so many of my colleagues before me have stated. Appreciate the opportunity to present our budget this year for you, our budget requests. I appreciate your time that you're spending with us this morning. I appreciate your endurance because you've heard a lot this morning, and I appreciate your attention. So thank you for that. We've got a lot to get to, so I'm going to jump in. I've got engineering and stormwater, so those are two separate line items, so we'll hit engineering first. All right. We are requesting a $10,000 increase over last year in operating budget to supplement the traffic engineering account. Mainly, we're going to use that for funding our traffic counting purposes. Personnel request, Chris has already alluded to what we're looking at on that, but it's 6 upgrades for our current positions. We're also looking to reclassify one of our administrative services specialist positions to an engineering technician, with the prime reason for that being their prime responsibility to be more erosion control inspections. So again, that's a reclassification on that one. And we are requesting 1 new position as a junior civil engineer. We've talked about utility players before. This is a utility player who will oversee the resurfacing program, erosion control inspections, plan reviews, construction inspections, traffic signaling inventories, as well as assisting in stormwater-related tasks. There should be a proposed organizational chart in your work packet. As far as vehicles go, we're requesting 3 replacement vehicles just due to aging infrastructure, aging materials. New technology, we're asking for some software and some hardware requests, including AutoCAD licenses to help us draft. You know, if we have some drafting capability, it would definitely help our department out as we learned in the layout of the parking lot here at City Hall. So that would have saved us a lot of time to have that capability at hand. And then upgrading desktop computers and printers. We do not have any building and facility requests. And then we get to the fun part with the high dollar amounts. On your summary sheets and in the documentation in your packets, you will note that these have been broken down into needs, wants, and priorities. Those are at the back end of each description in parentheses. Thank you, Mindy, for doing all of that for us. Excellent job. So the big one is the $5.4 million. So, and that's really to cover utility relocation costs on what we call the Big Valleydale Road project, right? That's the one from Caldwell Mill out to 280, and that's that stretch. The $5.4 million you've seen before you as agreements from Alabama Power, transmission and distribution. A good portion of that should be reimbursable, but we have to front the cost. So that is the fronting of the cost for Alabama Power. We will then use whatever is reimbursed, because we have, once we get that bill in, we will file for reimbursement to ALDOT. ALDOT will reimburse whenever ALDOT reimburses, and we'll use that to help relocate additional utilities. So we will need that 5.4 million. So I wanted to kind of call your attention to that one, because that one does stick out like a sore thumb with what we're looking at. The next several items on your list are annual maintenance funding requests, resurfacing program, miscellaneous drainage, guardrail, sidewalk, striping for roadways and intersections, miscellaneous bridge, roadway lighting, traffic signal and fiber optic repairs, signal emergency preemption systems, holiday decorations. Those are snowflake and flag pieces that are aging, and then roadway signage and upgrades. I can go through those dollar figures if you want me to, but you've got them in front of you. But those are what we classify as needs for sure, because those are annual maintenance pieces that we have to keep up. We are requesting as part of our needs a new $324,000 for a lighting safety project on Lorna Road. This is a very dark section of roadway. We've had some accidents, some injuries in that section of roadway. So it's to address that, to make it more safe for some of the pedestrians crossing as well. We're requesting, as part of our needs, $100,000 to upgrade and replace some of our traffic signal battery backups. When we have power failures, those battery backups are a savior for the traffic signals and keeping traffic moving. Also requesting $297,000 for various signal upgrade projects. That includes tether wires, upgrades to the signal cabinets, signal cabinet softwares, hardwares, traffic calming equipment, painting traffic signal poles, installation of ITS devices, various items in that category. So that wraps up what we classified as needs. So the rest of it, in the engineering piece, we're going to say what we want. So these are our desires, needs that we see around, but not necessarily, I guess, not necessarily a need at this point, but it will get to that point.
So quick question before you move to the wants.
Sure.
So there's a bigger spreadsheet of priority and need items in the back, and one of those is priority 13, need stormwater for the Green Valley drainage improvements.
Yes, I'll get to that in just a minute.
Okay.
I'm breaking out engineering and stormwater, so that'll fall in the
Excellent.
stormwater category.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that wraps up the needs. Any additional questions on the needs before I go further into the wants? All right, we'll keep going. We're requesting $321,000 to upgrade a traffic signal at US 31 and Patton Chapel Road South. This includes the design, geotech, foundational designs, ALDOT permit, and construction. Requesting an additional $100,000 to update traffic signal timings at the US 31 and Alabama 150/Lorna Road intersection. And then I'm going to lump all the next ones into a single request for $3,444,375 for 6 sidewalk projects. Those sidewalk projects are on Thornton Road, Stadium Trace Parkway, Heatherwood Drive, Shades Crest Road. I will note that the Shades Crest Road project is Jefferson County Route 97. We have contacted Jefferson County about that. They were not able to fit it into their budget this year, but that may be a future project for Jefferson County to at least assist us with in funding. And then Hawkesbury Lane and Lorna Road. So that kind of wraps up our engineering requests. Anything else on that one? Any other questions on that one before I get to stormwater? I know it's a big number.
I'll say on that, this is a good example on this section where if we can truly figure out a 3 to 5 year plan that we can begin to say, okay, here's how we're going to do it and the cost, because it's just so difficult because they're all so large. But I know sidewalks are so important and the connectivity, especially with our, plan that we've just created. But the Valleydale Road is a large investment that's been going on for over 20 years and will carry on for another however many.
All right, stormwater. We are requesting a $20,198 increase over last year, and that's to cover monitoring fees, some of our stormwater monitoring fees, as well as our consultant review fees, our third-party reviewer. Personnel request, we are requesting one new position for stormwater. We're requesting a program manager. It's a grade 10. And this is to coordinate, manage, prioritize all stormwater activities and projects within our department and within the city. And again, there should be a proposed worksheet in your packet on that. No new vehicle requests, no new technology, no new building. And I think, Mr. Ivor, this is where I get to your $2.17 million for drainage improvements on Green Valley. This is a phase 1, so we are identifying this one as a need. We know this is an issue now. We've identified the issue, and it involves upsizing some pipes. But what that does is you can't just upsize a pipe upstream when it's connected downstream, and you can't choke that pipe down. So what it means is that you have to upgrade those pipes all the way down to the outfall. And that's why it becomes very expensive very quickly. So that's really the $2.17 million that we've looked at on that. It is one of the recommendations from Shoal. It falls into that category. And we do anticipate another phase of that next year. We're requesting $660,000 for spillway replacement on Deodara Drive right there at Star Lake. Again, that falls back into the Shoal study, helping with some of that stormwater capability. An additional request is for $150,000 for phase 2 of the stormwater inventory and assessment. We did a stormwater assessment and inventory 2 years ago as part of the budget. I believe it came in at $80,000 for that study. It was then supplemented to $100,000. So we're trying to overestimate on this one to try to get the next phase. We believe that's important in really identifying the needs of the city. I would anticipate this being broken into 8 total phases to really get where we need to in the city. We've got a lot of infrastructure. The phase 2 portion that we're asking for is in the Green Valley area, just for your information on that. That's really being identified as the next priority area that we need to see what's going on there. We're requesting $100,000 to develop a dam safety program. This is identified as a need due to the latest dam safety requirements put forth by the state this past year. So we're trying to get in compliance with that. And then we're requesting about $22,000 for stormwater monitoring equipment, which would include pole cameras and drone and some remote monitoring equipment. And that wraps us up.
Any questions? Any overall questions? Now that we're done with the day. I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to thank everyone that stayed in and listened to every request, because, like you were talking about the asphalt device, I think it shows you how a lot of these things that you have and you get, the devices you get can work with multiple groups and can, a lot of the infrastructure stuff helps further down the road and other projects. So it's great that everybody stayed and listened to everything. And I want to thank everybody that listened online and the council members that were able to attend virtually, and for everybody that came in person. And for that, we are adjourned.